It was only voted in earlier this year, but the GAA All-Ireland football final may not be moved to August as planned. The original decision was taken to accommodate club activities at the back end of the season. However, the plan's under threat because of speculation about the Pope's visit that could change the date back to September. Michael Nugent is the chairperson of Atheist Ireland. He's with me in studio now. Michael, good morning.
Good morning.
You're hardly going to be first in the queue to see the Pope, I'm guessing.
Well, I'll probably hear them because I live around the corner from Croke Park and we kind of get good audio from there. But no, I won't be in the queue to see him. But I fully support the right of freedom of religion and belief. I fully support the right of the GAA to identify themselves with religious activity if their members choose to. Now, whether they want to identify with one religion, that's up to them. They've already had foreign sports at Croke Park, so there's no reason why they can't have a foreign religion at Croke Park.
A lot would argue that it isn't a foreign religion as such. It's very much a domestic one. But
as we would argue about soccer.
Let's talk about the use of Croke Park. It's probably because they need the lend of the hall, though, that they'd use the venue for an outdoor mass of 80,000. They mightn't fill the Phoenix Park in the same way John Paul II did, but they'll probably fill Croke Park, which is why they need the stadium.
Yeah, and as I say, I've absolutely no problem with them having a mass in Croke Park if that's what the GAA choose to do. They're a private body. My issue is who's paying for it, and is the Pope coming as a head of state or is he coming as a head of a religion? They tend to do this kind of chameleon-like thing of they're a state when it suits them, their religion when it suits them. They don't actually have any of the attributes of a state. They don't have a proper population. They don't have a proper economy. Their public services are provided by Italy. They're essentially a couple of buildings and a park in the middle of Rome. And so if they are coming over, it shouldn't be seen as a state visit. The Irish state should not be paying for it. They already owe us money from the redress scheme from abusing children and women. And not only that, but we've actually bailed them out in the same way as we bailed out the banks.
Well, I don't want to engage in a ducks and drakes argument with you, but the religious orders owe money. The Vatican arguably doesn't owe money. The religious orders.
This is part of the difficulty. That, they're one thing when it suits them, they're another thing when it suits them. Sometimes it suits them to say that they're in charge of everything. Sometimes it suits them to say, well, no.
But they are a state, though, Michael. I mean, you may disagree, but they are a state, and as a country and a signatory to the United Nations, we have to recognise them as a state.
There's a convenient fiction that enables countries to pretend they're a state, but they don't have any of the legal attributes of a state, and they somehow managed to inveigle themselves into the United Nations because of the fact initially that they published their own stamps and they had their own radio station. That's how they got in initially, through the Telecommunications Union and the Postal Union, and then on the basis of that they managed to get the UN to change, without any vote, to change the entity that was registered with the UN from the Vatican, which is their pretend state, to the Holy See, which is actually the head of the Catholic Church, not just the pretend state.
And when we talk about state visits and official visits and so on and so forth, there was a time when Queen Elizabeth II came here. Yeah. Cost an absolute fortune in terms of security, and then that rolled into a visit with President Barack Obama that cost an absolute fortune. Yeah. Did you object to those visits?
No, I didn't object to those because they weren't saying masses or holding religious services as the head of a religion, even though the Queen is technically the head of a religion and state in England. But you've got to make clear which it is that they are coming as. Again, if you go back to the finances, there's a very important development in terms of the finances that you were talking about just yesterday. The Vatican auditor, who has been examining and trying to reform the Vatican's finances against opposition from the Vatican Treasury, and who had his computer hacked while he was doing that, has just resigned yesterday without any explanation. This is an organisation that Bertie Ahern specifically said we were bailing out because he didn't want them to go bankrupt here. It's the relationship between the Irish state and a very financially unethical organisation.
I get that.
It's profound.
Are you saying that Pope Francis, when he comes here, should go to government buildings to meet the Taoiseach, then up to the Phoenix Park to say hello to Michael D. Higgins, take an open-top tour bus and go home? I mean, surely we deserve to give a little bit more to the head of the largest religion on the planet, which is the Catholic Church, of which there are many people in the country who want to go and see.
Well, and I have no problem with people wanting to see him. If Catholics want to see him, that's fine. But if he is coming as head of the Catholic Church, then we shouldn't be paying for it, just as we wouldn't be paying if the head of any other church was coming over to speak in Ireland.
So who pays for it then if we don't pay for it?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, when the Pope attended a previous one of these family events that they seem to be tying it in with in America, the Catholic Church themselves paid for it. So that they're able to pay for things if they want to.
Just to clarify, did they pay for all of the security? Did they pay for the overtime of the guards? Did they pay for the use of the venues, the sound systems and all of that?
I'm not sure of the details.
Because I'm pretty sure that if the Pope stages a mass in the Phoenix Park or in Croke Park, the state won't be paying for the loudspeakers and the PA. All they will be doing is ensure that the people who go along, who are Irish taxpayers, that they are looked after, that they are kept safe and that nothing goes wrong. I mean, that is the responsibility of the state, to make sure that large numbers of people who are gathering for an event are protected.
It is, but when there are large events, whether they be sporting events or entertainment events, there is normally a payment by the organisers to the state to cover overtime and police.
No,
it doesn't cover the whole cost. But I'm not suggesting that the state doesn't do the things that it normally does. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't treat this chameleon-like entity that is a religion when it suits it and a state that when it suits it as whatever it wants it to be.
Michael, many people listening right now, and you're coming from your position as the chairperson of Atheist Ireland, which is fine, and that is your belief system. I think it's fair to say that an atheist is a belief system. You believe in that there not being a God.
Yeah, I believe that there's no God. There are some differences as to how people would express their atheism.
The problem is there is no head of state who come over here to promote atheism. So therefore it's a difficult situation when we're talking about the Pope. And a lot of people, I'd imagine, will be quite offended that you raise such heckles that this is happening when they're very happy to see the Pope coming. They'd be willing to go and see the Pope coming. They might even want to pay to see the Pope coming.
Well, I would suggest if you look at the reaction just a couple of weeks ago when the state tried to give a new national maternity hospital to the Catholic Church, that the reaction of the Irish people has changed considerably. The Catholic Church does not have the control over the people of Ireland that it used to have.
That doesn't mean there aren't Catholics.
Of course there are Catholics. And as I say, I'm perfectly supportive of their right to have as many masses as they want and for the Pope to say as many masses as you want, as long as the rest of us aren't expected to pay for it. The other thing that's quite significant, by the way, is the timing, is that it's going to coincide with the same year as the abortion referendum, and I'm sure that's no coincidence either. And I think it's very important there that the abortion referendum is held early in the year rather than later.
It would happen and be done and dusted by the time the Pope would visit in August or whatever, but we don't have a time frame yet, so we can't say that with any certainty. Just out of curiosity, are you a GAA fan? Would you be offended on a GAA level if the All-Ireland final was moved?
No, I'm not a GAA fan, but I've nothing against the GAA. I kind of like the idea of football events and sporting events generally having a traditional time. I think moving it from September was a bad idea anyway, just as in soccer terms, I liked when the FA Cup final was on at 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Listener says, does Atheist Ireland take any state funding?
No, we don't. We make a point of not taking any state funding because we want to maintain our independence. We operate entirely voluntarily and we have no offices, no employees. Sean
in Wexford says, I'm surprised how Atheist Ireland are always so concerned about religion and the Pope. Could they just live and let live and maybe get outraged about something else?
We'd love to live and let live, and in fact that's what we're aiming for, is a society where everybody does live and let live. But the only way to enable everybody to live and let live is for the state to remain neutral and not to take
this may answer your question. There have been several collections already in churches around the country to pay for the World Meeting of Families. Those who attend church are paying for this, which presumably you would say is the right thing to do.
Exactly, and if that is the case, I have absolutely no problem with it.
OK, Michael Nugent of Atheist Ireland, thank you very much.